Thank you. As the service leader for this morning, I'm not typically doing this. And typically there's one of the reverends, Reverend KB or Reverend Sally here. They are both off this Sunday. I think KB is on a family vacation, and I think Sally is officiating a wedding for a family member. So we wish them well at wherever they're at, and bear with me, and we'll hope that everything that we've pulled together actually comes off. So, my name is Jerry Carden. I am the service leader for today as a member of the Social Action Council. I am so glad to be here with you, whether in person or watching online. Wherever you are on life's journey, we want you to know that you are welcome here. For those of us in person here in our beautiful sanctuary, honoring one another's preferences for safe distancing by using color-coded lanyards. Red, you feel cautious of being in shared space and prefer to keep a larger distance. Yellow, for closer contact without touching. And green, for those who feel safer being physically closer together. And you might be up for handshakes and hugs, although it's always good to check first before handshakes and hugs. Our congregation's mission is to build community, seek inspiration, promote justice, and find peace. We are a church of many different beliefs, united through commitment to shared principles. We are a faith that focuses on deeds and not creed. Deeds and not creeds. Sorry for people at home. If you want to follow along with the written order of service, that link is just below this video on our website. And if you want to chat with your fellow UUCUC members, you can find the live stream chat box on our YouTube page. There is still time to send a joy or sorrow to be read aloud later in the service. The ushers will walk by with cards you can use that they will collect when ready, or if you're at home, you can email your message to joys and sorrows, all one long word, at uucuc.org. The address will be on your screen, I think, and under the YouTube video screen. We welcome any visitors that are with us this morning, whether in the sanctuary or at home. We are delighted you are with us. We assume maybe you are looking for community, the first part of our mission, and we want to help you find community with us. Please stay tuned to the e-news every week for updates of information about the life of our congregation. There is also a closed Facebook group for members and friends, and that's another route for those that use Facebook. We gather today to learn about the middle section of our mission, the connection between finding inspiration and promoting justice. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the service is planned and sponsored by the Social Action Council, which is a group of one representative from each of our more formalized social justice teams, and looks at the overall picture of social justice initiatives planned through UUCUC. Each Sunday, this congregation chooses to pause to honor our sacred connection to the land and to our interconnection to nature. Together, let us direct our thoughts to appreciate the history of this place and our own responsibilities as stewards and members of a wider community, as stewards of the land. Wherever you are listening from today, allow yourself a moment to sink down into the deeper history of that place. Think of all the lives that have taken root here, those who lived where you now live before you arrived, the builders who constructed your walls, the creatures of every shape and size who have lived and died nearby, the glacial ice that once moved across this prairie, and yes, the many people and peoples who stewarded this land for generations. Here on Green Street, we worship on the land of the Kickapoo, the Peoria, the Wea, the Miami, and the Sioux. These peoples still exist today and are committed to a continued struggle for survival and self-determination. Take a breath and consider the history and peoples of the land you are resting on. May we always remember where we are, the sacredness of this place, and the many people, human and otherwise, who belong to it. It gives me great joy to have our new choir director, MR, and their wife, Bethany, and their son, Frankie, to light our chalice. And I realized I didn't get that little starter candle lit. Too many details for this mind to remember. MR is going to read our chalice lighting words, and you can read along with.
If ever there were a time for a candle in the darkness, this would be it. Using a spark of hope, kindle the flame of love, ignite the light of peace, and feed the flame of justice.
Thank you. It's a delight to have you with us. And MR is now going to lead us with A Time for All Ages, which is really a song for all ages. I think I need to turn this off so our mic.
Let's see. I'm not sure if this one's working anymore. It has a big red light on it, so I'll just use this one. Perfect. Good morning. I'm standing on my tippy toes. I'm very grateful to Jerry and the Social Action Council for inviting me to do this song for all ages. Normally we would have the kiddos come up, but since we're all doing it today, I figured we would stay put, and that way we have more time for all of the other things to do this afternoon or this morning. So today, instead of doing some sort of choir directing stuff, I'm here to tell you a little bit about the use of music for social and restorative justice. When I was in college, I taught music at a men's maximum security prison. In this setting, we learned about Ella Baker, the mother of the civil rights movement. And in just a moment, I'll be teaching you about Ella's song. But first, music has always been a way of encouraging and inspiring us to connect with others and challenge discrimination. And we have several examples of these kinds of songs in our hymnals. We Shall Overcome, We Are a Gentle, Angry People, and Wade in the Water, just to name a few of those. We can also use music as a way of expressing ourselves, which is why I used it at the prison. These young men had nothing other than violence to share their emotions, to express themselves. And in using music, this helped them to connect with each other and with themselves. So today we'll connect with each other by using a couple of lines of Ella's song, which was written by Dr. Johnston Reagan of Sweet Honey in the Rock. And it goes like this. When I put my hand here, I'm going to sing. When I put my hand here, you're going to sing. Capiche? Okay. We who believe in freedom, cannot rest. That's a little tricky. Rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom, cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Nice. I'll do both lines, and then you'll do both lines. You ready for that challenge? I'm going to come down off my calves a little because they're killing me. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Can we do it twice? Okay, I'm not going to do it first, though. Y'all have heard me enough. Ready? We who believe. Ready? Hold on, sorry. 3. And we who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Good for you. You all sound so fantastic. Choirs on Wednesday nights. So Bethany and I were talking last night about this piece, and one of the fun things about this is that you can do it in a round, but as she was telling me when she was trying to do it for an elementary class, it doesn't work, right? It's not harmonic. It's not harmonious. It's all sort of cacophonous. Jerry used that word this morning, and I took it. And so I want to try it in this 2-part round. So we'll sort of split us down the middle. And you'll start, and then I'll bring you all in, okay? We'll see how it goes, but as you'll hear, it'll just sort of be this craziness of sound. It won't really feel like this harmonious, like row, row, row your boat, right? Because in a protest, in some sort of civil rights, and all of these other movements that we're working towards, there's all of these voices, and we all are sounding at the same time, but we can say the same things. So you're gonna start, and I'm going to bring you in, and we'll see how it works. Each side will sing it twice. When you get to the end, just listen to the other side finish. Okay, we ready? And we who believe in, we who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes.
That was fun. Thank you, MR, Bethany, and Frankie. And I'm thinking about the Pride Parade in terms of, oh, thank you, Christy, for reminding me to take off my mask. I'm thinking about the Pride Parade. A few years ago, I remember teaching when we still called the hymn Standing on the Side of Love. I taught the chorus, and we used some hand signals to try and remember all the various lines. And every now and then, as we marched through the streets, we would break into song. And I'm thinking this would be a good one for the Pride Parade this year. So think about it, and those of us that are going to be in the Pride Parade, we can decide if we want to do that. Okay, let me gather my thoughts and do a deep breath myself here. Because I almost read MR's piece. Those of you in religious education classes, and those are for the shorter folks, now is the time that we depart. And since we don't have the kiddos up here, I'm not sure that we need to form our arch, but we are going to do hymn number 414 as we leave this friendly place. And I think we're all familiar with it, so we can probably just start into singing it. And the words are up here. As we leave this friendly place, love give light to every face. May the guide our hearts till we return. Now, if you're following your order of service very closely, you'll notice that there's a blessing song, and that should be one row down under shared joys and sorrows, because it is now time for our shared joys and sorrows. Ours is a welcoming community where we find connection, a spiritual community where we find meaning. Ours is a sharing community where our joys are amplified, a caring community where our sorrows are lessened. We take this moment to reflect on our joys and sorrows and acknowledge the mutual support of our community. Those here in the sanctuary are invited to write the joys and sorrows you would like shared on a card, which you will find either in the back of the pew or at the central back table. If you need a card, raise your hand and our friendly ushers, Pat and Panay, will bring you a card, because I don't think all of the pews may be stocked or it may not be near you. Another option for those watching elsewhere or in the sanctuary is to send it in an email to Joys and Sorrows, all one big long word, at UUCUC.org. If you wish, sing along with our blessing song, also familiar words, or just let the music wash over you. And you might notice that today we are singing with our masks on, except for me, because Champaign County is now in the medium COVID transmission range. And after we collect the joys and sorrows, I will read those from the sanctuary as well as those that came in on my phone, and we will move to the blessing song. We have a joy from David Gross that he and Claudia are in Florida for the wedding of their oldest grandchild, our granddaughter Michelle. All of our family tree assembled for a most wonderful outdoor ceremony. That brings me joy, and I kind of asked him, I tear up easily. We are delighted with Justin, the young man who joined our family. And I will read those from our sanctuary. From Mia Trevino. I officially became a member last week and am so happy to have a full heart. We are happy too, Mia. Please introduce yourself and, Mia, great. Thank you so much. We have one from Pat Nolan. Next Friday will be the first anniversary of my brother's death. Post-pandemic, our family will be assembled or gathering in Anchorage for a celebration of life. I was talking with Pat about this a little earlier in the week, and I know it's a very special time for their family. And from Karen and Mike Retzer, lighting a candle in memory of Karen's mom, Alice Foote. I'm tearing up again because I remember Alice so well, who died 10 years ago yesterday. Yeah, many of us remember Alice. And now, from our electronic source, oh, thank you. I almost missed some from the sanctuary. Thank for my helpers. From Claire Douglas. Joy to be here for first time. Fear/sorrow breakup with fiance of 7 years. Isolated, lonely. We feel for you. We want to meet you. And it's a part of building community, that first step to come to a new place like this. And this one says, see reverse. Oh, somebody typed this out. It'll be really easy to read, I hope. I recently learned of the passing at the age of 99 of a woman I knew as Mrs. Lachelle, who was my 8th grade art teacher and my 9th grade Latin teacher. She was somehow different from all of the other female teachers I had had. Not in any way I can quite name, or in any way that was particularly outlandish. She was simply her own woman at a time when that seemed unusual. The last time I saw her was at my father's house after my mother's funeral, where she was telling me about just happening to be in Iran at the time of the revolution in those early, more hopeful days. Thank you, and that did not have a name, which is fine. And this is from Debbie and Steve Rugg. I understand that sometimes you're trying to get these written so that they could get up here in time. Yeah. Our son Nate ran a personal dent. I'm sorry, my hearing aids and this loudspeaker don't really. Under 3 hours at the Berlin Marathon this morning. Fantastic. Okay, any others that have fallen away here? Okay, we have some online. And this is from Jenny Lokshin. Joyful that UUCUC member Heidi Richter and Harrison Hall celebrated their love by getting married on the autumnal equinox in North Dakota. And this is from somebody that visited our congregation several years ago, way before the pandemic, that I had the joy of meeting. And it's so nice to hear from you, Bunny. I've been feeling so happy to be able to join from Springfield. I've been ill, and attending virtually brings me some of that wonderful UU comfort. Hugs, Bunny. And I think I have one more here. And this is from the family Pitzel. Joy as we celebrate 15 years of marriage. We may or may not be watching the live stream while eating cake. Cameron and Michelle Pitzel. And Just let me do a scroll here to see if anything is like traveling the airwaves. I think I've got it. May we remember those who have spoken, those they have named, and those we hold in silence in our hearts. Take these next moments to meditate or pray or simply breathe and rest within this time for a musical meditation. I just remembered one that I wanted to do that I didn't write down. And this is for Pam and Lan Richart. Pam would have been with us today to speak her piece for the immigration justice team. But Pam has been super crazy busy with their business, Eco Justice Collaborative. They are working really diligently to fight this pipeline where they're trying to bring all this carbon from 5 different states and land it in Illinois. Plus, in the midst of all this work that they're doing, they lost their 14-and-a-half-year-old dog this week. And those of us that are pet lovers know what that's like. So Pam decided that today was a day that they just needed to have a rest at home, and I said, I will read your words. So what I said earlier, rest within this time for musical meditation. 1.
This is a reading from Pulling at Threads by Ursula Wolf-Roca. It can be overwhelming to witness, experience, take in all the injustices of the moment. The good news is that they're all connected. So if your little corner of work involves pulling at one of the threads, you're helping to unravel the whole damn cloth. An interpretation. So rather than becoming frozen by not knowing what to do or where to start, find one little place of inspiration, one thread to begin pulling at, and then let the light that comes through that can lead the way to the next thread and the unraveling of the piece of fabric.
Thank you, Jim. I asked Jim this morning if he would do that reading for us. Kind of last minute, I know. But I wanted Jim's voice in the service as we are focusing on the Social Action Council, which a forerunner was the Social Action Committee. And one of the things that I want to do is recognize a lot of the people and the activities that have taken place in this congregation, at least ever since Tim and I were involved. And I know that both the merged Unitarian Universalist Church from 1957 has a rich history, as did both of our forerunners, the Universalist Church, which started here, and the Unitarian Church, which is on campus and is now the Channing Murray Foundation. So a little bit of history for those of you that are new. But I just wanted to make sure that Sandy's voice and Jim's voice were in the service because they have been involved in so many of the social justice movements, the teams that we have had here ever since Tim and I got involved. And they've helped start some, and those that they didn't start, they've helped with and are continuing to help with. And that reading I liked. Reverend Sally found that reading. She found it on her Twitter account. I don't do Twitter, but she found it. I thought it was particularly pithy, because I think a lot of us, myself included, we see everything that's going on, and it just seems like it's snowballing in the last few months and years, ever since you know who. And it is hard to know, where do I start? Can what I do make a difference? And that's what we're hoping to do with this service, is inspire people to find just something that you can begin tearing apart at that fabric of social injustice. Like Jim and Sandy and many others, like Carla and some of our other readers today, like Joe Omoosagi, Pam and Lan, have been doing for a long time. So I just wanted to thank all of them for being here today and being with us. And I know that I'm going to miss counting everybody that's been involved in our social justice programs, because there's so many of you, and there's also a lot of you that do. I think about the social justice that we are all involved in as collectively, which are the social justice teams that, if you go to our church website, and Avalon, I know I'm kind of throwing this out there, but we talked about this ahead of time, and Avalon is going to pull up our church website and then show us where you can find the social justice information. Oh, I shouldn't leave the pulpit for the people at home. And Avalon is now navigating through the various social justice options. It's not always quite up to date, but I believe one of our newest is reproductive justice, which we'll be talking about here in just a minute. But that's the purpose of our service today, is to, if you're not already active, or even if you are active, looking at what can I do? We are now at the time for our community matters. We, as Unitarian Universalists, acknowledge that our circle of care doesn't stop at our church doors, as I just mentioned. We're deeply connected to the community we find ourselves in and to the wider world. Each Sunday, in recognition of our very real interdependence and reliance on each other, we pass the plate and share our offering with an organization doing the work of justice in the world. And those organizations, those 11 organizations plus the partner church, are chosen by you, the members and friends of this congregation. And we're gearing up for that. So we want you to begin thinking about the shared offering. During the month of September, our collection will be shared with Uniting Pride of Champaign County. And how appropriate is that? Because their Pride Fest, which is a week-long series of events, starts actually today, I believe, or yesterday. I think it started on the 24th and goes through next weekend, culminating in the Pride Fest parade and Pride Fest booths, which we're going to have a booth at the fair, as well as marching in the parade. There's more details in the order of service and also on the website. And we invite you to check out our UUCUC e-news all through the month of September, or UP's website, unitingpride.org, to see the wide range of deeply needed services and rich opportunities that are provided. They are currently being led by a wonderful, wonderful woman, Nicole Friedman, who is doing a great job. And they've had ups and downs because oftentimes they've been mostly volunteer related. And Nicole's doing a great job working with the board for Uniting Pride and bringing it back around and doing a lot more kinds of services for people in the community. And we hope that many here at UUCUC will continue to be actively participating again in this year's Pride Fest. And I've already talked about that just off the cuff. And Before we go to the offering, I'm speaking for Pat McClard here, who is our guru for shared offering. Pat, do you want to stand up and just let people see you? He was one of our ushers today, along with Panay. And in fact, we just had one of our past team members for shared offering, Pat Feely, up here, agree to help out, but they can always use more help. So another topic that Pat is wanting us to talk about today is, because Pat is on the Minister Search team, the Minister Search survey. They are at 75%, they want more, and they are due by noon Monday, that's tomorrow. And having served on the previous Ministerial Search Committee, it was myself and Kelly Halcomb within the committee that were responsible for kind of pulling together the survey, and I know how much work it is, and they've spent hours on this, I know. And so for us to maybe spend 20, 30 minutes, if that's kind of what I think it takes for you to put some thought into it, please, if you haven't done it yet, please do. Back to the offering. You can give by text or through the online portal on our website, or if you are here in the sanctuary, the basket will be passed and checks can be made out to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Urbana-Champaign. Easier, UUCUC. No matter how you choose to contribute today, half of your donation will go toward the work of this church, half will go to Uniting Pride. Remember that giving money to UUCUC and local organizations such as UP is one of those low-key ways to fulfill the promoting justice part of our mission. The offering will now be taken. Juan, once again, I think we all recognize that beautiful piece and what it's meant to people over the years. And it reminds me that one of our Social Action Council members was not able to be here today. They had a scheduled vacation. And this is one of our, Nan isn't particularly a newer member. She's been around for a little while, but she's not one of our long-timers either. Because sometimes I hear people say, oh, it's always the long-timers that we see doing stuff. And we have a few exceptions to that. And so We have so many people that are new that have joined us during the pandemic, and some that I haven't met, some that I have. And so we just want everyone to know that even though you see some long-timers doing tasks and being involved in some of the councils and the various teams, that we really, really, really want to have our newcomers get involved, because that's what helps build the community for you to get to know one another. And I've heard it said that if you don't get involved with it a certain period of time, and I don't remember what that period of time is because I'm just not a numbers guy, that you tend to fall away from an organization, someplace like a church where maybe you're just going for the Sunday services. And that's okay too, if that's where you're at in life. And there are times when sometimes the things in life overwhelm us, maybe from, who knows what. We've all been through stuff like Lan and Pam with losing their dog, or, a beloved family member. And sometimes we need to take a step back from things and build our energy so that we can get out there again. So part of the goal today is for you to kind of assess where you're at with all of that. So beginning our reflection for today, the UU Church of Urbana-Champaign has a long history of pulling others up on a number of social justice issues. The Universalists formed in 1859, over a decade before they had a building at this corner. They built the first building here, this is the second building, in 1871. This particular building dates to 1914. They were involved in the anti-slavery movement before the Civil War began as abolitionists. And I'm skipping a portion here about some of that history because I want to make sure we have time for our other reflections today. But it's a rich history. If you haven't seen our history books, do so. Last Sunday, Reverend KB spoke about the build community part of our mission, which has to do with belonging. It's the reason most of us find our way here, whether as a newcomer or a long-timer. We all want to feel part of a group. Getting involved in the life of the church is important. Seeking inspiration, the second part of our mission, can be spiritual inspiration for personal reflection and growth. It can also be seeking inspiration for where and how to get involved. Many causes vying for attention. We can't be a part of all of them or we'd burn out. So part of the personal inspiration is discernment about what causes to promote justice for, whether by simply learning about them, volunteering time to help in some way, and or giving to a cause financially. So it's a triple treat. We come here wanting to connect with others, but in getting involved in the life of the church and its various teams, or by volunteering for your favorite causes, by promoting justice with others, we find that community. And hopefully the fourth part of our mission, finding a semblance of peace. Knowing that we can't fix everything or be involved in all causes, but by doing something, we can get closer to contentment. Another theme that KB has been following over the past several months is awakening. The 2 years spent away from others during the pandemic and in a limbo-like state has taken its toll on all of us, individually and collectively. As we peek our heads out from our shells and from behind our masks, we realize that not just as individuals, but our church family too can use some reawakening out of hibernation, stretching and testing our wings to reassess our values and commitments, which this is a great time to do it because we're in a ministerial search, and those ministers that are going to be looking for congregations are out there perusing our websites and looking at, okay, they say they're for social justice, how many people are really involved and what kinds of things are they doing? I think we're pretty well situated, but we can raise the bar a little bit too, or a lot. We know all too well the various social ills in our society, racism, broken immigration systems, renewed and even more vicious attempts on our rights as people, especially on women and their bodies, on Black, Indigenous, and all people of color, on LGBTQ plus folks, on banning books and on our education systems. The climate issues predicted long ago are increasing faster than expected. And that reminds me, I started talking about Nan Holda and I didn't finish that thought. Well, welcome to my ADHD world. Nan has started or reignited what was called the Green UUs, called Cultivate, CUUULTIVATE. And Nan could use a lot of help in terms of looking at climate justice, because don't we hear that, hey, if we don't have a world, you can finish that sentence for yourself. So do we throw up our hands? Is that what will help us eventually find peace? I think not. We are a justice-seeking people. As we sing in the hymn, we are a gentle, angry people. So let's take a listen to what inspired some of our fellow UU members and friends to promote justice. First on our docket today is Carla Peterson. And between our reflections, Juan's going to play a little bit of a few measures of something a little familiar from what we've heard already today. So, Carla?
She was 20, midway through her junior year of college, attending a small college in Iowa. It was 1967. She was and is my smart and wonderful youngest sister. The call from the hospital in that college town to our mother came when she went to the ER hemorrhaging as the result of an illegal abortion. It had been performed in Chicago, where she and her boyfriend had gone through a referral from a friend. Abortion, you see, was illegal in 1967. The doctor told my sister after he treated her that she still might die of gas gangrene, I don't know what that is, and that he would not be able to help her if that happened. My parents drove to Iowa. Mother sat by her bed mute, expressing her anger, disappointment, but no comfort. Father never went to the hospital. In fact, neither our mother or father ever said a word to her about anything related to the abortion, didn't acknowledge that she'd been pregnant or been in the hospital, never asked who the father was. The police had also been alerted. They went to the apartment where her boyfriend lived, searching for and finding prescriptions from the doctor. Presumably he was dealt with accordingly, but we don't know the outcome. Mother reported to each of us siblings one at a time, but when I tried to console her, she pushed me away. My sister was expelled from college, but not the boyfriend. She finished college in Illinois, but for many years to come, my father made comments about her lack of responsibility. She did marry the boyfriend and had 2 children, later divorced, and life went on. But I cringe at the realization that we are back in 1922 to that same dreadful place in history. The impact on my sister was one of pain, angst, anger, and mistrust of parents who could not acknowledge her feelings or give comfort. Interestingly enough, in that same year, Planned Parenthood of Decatur, where I lived, invited me to be a volunteer, which I did, because Planned Parenthood just makes sense. And my sister's experience solidified my belief in what Planned Parenthood does. And to this day, reproductive justice is my passion, and I'll be volunteering again. Thank you.
Carla's volunteer work with Planned Parenthood turned into a lifelong career and commitment. Her involvements include the racial justice team and now renewed interest in Planned Parenthood with the recent overturning of Roe. One of our new members during the pandemic, Mike Sabaczynski, formed the reproductive justice team. Mike couldn't be here to read during the service today, but Mike does plan to be here for the social justice social during fellowship time. Look for the tall guy with the hang tag for reproductive justice. Now, I don't believe I've mentioned the social justice or social action social yet, but those of us that are wanting to represent some of our various groups have a hang tag, and there's actually blank hang tags up here. So if you have a cause or you're part of one of the teams and don't have a card and you're willing to talk to others, Carla has the blank cards. We have some that are already filled out for racial justice and immigration. I have mine filled out for the LGBTQ welcome team, although I've been involved in some of the others. But we will have people at social time, and you can ask me about this or Carla about whatever, and some people have probably 2 or 3 groups listed on their card. So moving to Mike's words, I'm now speaking as Mike Sabachinsky. The Planned Parenthood Clinic in Champaign is seeing a flood of patients from Indiana, Kentucky, and other states that have recently banned abortion. Anti-abortion protests are ramping up at the clinic. Clinic escort volunteers are needed to provide support to patients as they access the clinic. Please contact the reproductive justice team at reprojustice, all one word, reprojustice@uucuc.org for more information. And in your order of service, there is an insert that has some contact information, mostly emails, for people that are involved with the various teams. So now we are going to hear from Sandy Hannum.
When I was a junior in high school, my social justice consciousness got a real kick in the head. In 1960, my friend Lynn Lomack told me that her boyfriend, who was in college in Atlanta, had been arrested and sent to jail. He was one of 33 black college students taking part in a sit-in with Martin Luther King, protesting segregation at a lunch counter in an Atlanta department store. She was so proud of him. For the first time in my life, I realized that one could be arrested and jailed for doing something good and courageous. It was a huge wake-up call. It was also the first time that I really thought about the fact that our justice system is not always just. Neither of us realized at the time how much danger he was actually in. Since then, there have been so many stories that reinforce this truth. I can't believe that we're still dealing with deep racism in our society in 2022. It is sickening and shameful. You know what I'm talking about. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Kewan Carrington, and on and on. Awareness of my white privilege has continued to grow since 1960, along with awareness of racial and economic injustice. I cannot feel comfortable sitting on the sidelines doing nothing when good people are being hurt every day. I feel driven to do whatever I can to make a difference for the better. Here at UUCUC, I've been part of the racial justice team since it began. We've made many close connections throughout Champaign-Urbana and have been able to work with various different groups in their racial justice efforts. It's been a gratifying experience, and we've all learned a great deal. The racial justice team would love to have you join us. Economic injustice resulting in poverty and hunger is a closely aligned issue. To help alleviate hunger and poverty in the community, I volunteer at the Daily Bread Soup Kitchen, along with several other UUs. Some of our clients are working poor who are not paid a living wage. Others are even more downtrodden to the point of being homeless. At Daily Bread, we serve nutritious meals and treat people with respect. We also have an office that helps people obtain important papers such as state ID cards, birth certificates, and bus passes. Part of our mission is to help people get back on their feet. Once a year, I work on the CROP Hunger Walk. CROP stands for Communities Responding to Overcome Poverty. This is a community-wide effort to raise funds to alleviate hunger and poverty, both locally and globally. 25% of the funds stay in the community, 75% of the funds go to other parts of the world where hunger and poverty are most dire. Funding is also used to relieve suffering from disasters such as war and extreme climate events. Our church is always one of the most generous contributors to this event. This year, Crop Walk will take place on October 2nd. That's next Sunday. We welcome your involvement. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. So there's several things that are coming up very quickly that you can get involved in. And next, we have another reflection from Joe Omo Osagi.
Kosi sikelela tina luswapo luayo. I came to the United States on December 8, 1980, the day John Lennon was killed, here in Give Peace a Chance. When I came to the United States, I was an African. I was an Edo man from Lagos, Nigeria. I spoke Yoruba. I spoke Edo. And for the many, many years after I got to the United States, I had the sit-ins at the Union, went to the president's home, fighting against apartheid, because that was, as an African and someone here, and I wanted the university to divest from what was going on in South Africa at that time. That was my involvement. I did not really become a black man in this country till my sons were born. I realized something. They were not going to be seen as African. They were black men. And black men are seen as dangerous. That's why I've been involved. I am involved because I don't. Selfishly, maybe. But I can't do it. You can. My skin is a weapon. My look is a weapon. When my 6'4", 200+ pound 19-year-old leaves her home in a hoodie, I think about it. Don't wear the hoodie. Don't wear the hoodie. How many of you think about it? When your son leaves home dressed in a hoodie, I do. It's become much more difficult. It's become much more difficult in the last 5 years. Donald Trump just exposed the racism of the United States. He just brought people to believe that it was okay to be blatantly, openly racist. I came as an African and a Edo man. Bawuni, Woye, how you doing? Jumbo. Those were the things that made me African, and sometimes it may have protected me a little bit because you would hear my accent, you would see the darkness of my skin, but my sons do not have that privilege. My sons are seen as just Black Americans, and Black Americans are seen as dangerous. That is why I'm involved. That is why I ask each and every one of you, that don't look like me, use your privilege. Use your privilege. That is what you can do to help my sons feel safe, to help me feel safe, to help all of those people that look like myself and my sons to feel safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. It was the racial justice team and a series of documentary videos that they showed on Sunday afternoons, the first or second year that they were involved. And it's really what inspired me, I think, to work with this service, is because coming and watching those videos and really taking them all in and seeing different takes on racism and learning more about Ferguson and the reason behind the rioting. I'm a farm boy from Iowa. My parents didn't use the N-word, and we would be slapped if we did. But still, I grew up around a lot of racist people. And I know that no matter what learning I've done, watching these documentaries or videos, haven't erased it. It's there in my bones, and I don't fully understand it. But to me, being involved and even just going and watching the information is something that we can do to help dismantle, tear at the threads of our own issues with whatever the issue might be. Now, I know that the service is going over, so if anybody feels the need to leave, don't feel embarrassed at all about getting up and leaving. But I just feel like the topics are important, and we've probably spent time doing worse things. And if we went to fellowship time, we would just be standing, drinking coffee, talking about our favorite organizations. I have one more reflection to read. Because Pam Richard could not be here today because she's taking care of herself and her husband and their family, I am Pam now. So I'm reading her words that she sent to me yesterday. Good morning. Have any of you had a calling, a feeling deep inside your soul that perhaps you didn't understand but could not shake? I had been part of a study group exploring the impact of NAFTA on people here at home and abroad. And NAFTA, if you didn't understand, was North Atlantic Free Trade Association. I was presented with an opportunity to travel to Honduras and El Salvador, where the civil wars had recently ended, and both countries were opening up maquilladoras, and I asked her to explain, and she said, maquilladoras are sweatshop-style factories, where our clothes end up getting made. To participate in what many of us call the race to the bottom. Pam continues, personally, it was a terrible time for me to go since I had 3 kids at home and was working full time. But try as I might, I could not get away from the feeling that I must go. Friends were encouraging me to go, and so off I went. It was a trip of transformation for me. I remained in awe of the bravery of those who met with our group, each of whom shared how our government was affecting their lives. They told horror stories of displacement from their land, extreme poverty, forced labor, and disappearance by soldiers trained in the U.S. All asked us to come home and work for change, meaning coming home to the U.S. I came home totally shaken up, and Lan and I began the journey of refocusing our lives, making plans to leave our business and start our nonprofit, which is the Eco Justice Collaborative. This experience is why I care so much about systemic change. It is also how I became hooked on justice. That was an alternate title for our service, Hooked on Justice. If ever there is interest in taking a trip to the border, I'll help arrange it. But transformation can also happen here in our community. On Thursday, Lisa Seckler, another of our members, I don't know if Lisa is here today. I know there are some other folks from the immigration justice team that are going to be available for fellowship time. But on Thursday, Lan, Lisa Seckler, and I met with immigrant justice groups here in CU to explore how to respond to the anticipated busing of migrants from Chicago to Champaign-Urbana. Chicago is expecting to receive 1,000 to 1,500 people a week for the next 15 weeks. And J.B. Pritzker is mobilizing the National Guard to help with resettlement across the state. Our immigrant justice team has met, and we are beginning the process of determining how we can support those arriving in our community who will need everything from short-term emergency shelter, food, transportation, a place to live, medical support, jobs, and childcare. We likely will be reaching out to you again and want to express our heartfelt thanks for the gifts of your time, food, and other household items. We here at UUCUC have helped a family from Mexico, from Afghanistan, and from Nicaragua over the last several years. And oftentimes these are families that need a place to stay until they are found a more permanent situation in the community. So when you've noticed that we've had people here at the church, that's what's going on, providing people a place of refuge for a little while till they can find that permanent home. So if you have been experiencing that call to engage in, this is back to Pam's words. So if you have been experiencing that call to engage in immigrant justice and your heart is telling you to dive in, the Immigrant Justice Team, IJT, will welcome you with open arms. And the beauty of our new social action structure is that you don't need to come to all team meetings. We're likely to set up a separate working group solely for this purpose. If you are interested, contact Pam at PamelaRichart1@gmail.com or see Karen Folk with the hang tag during our social action social during fellowship time. Now, I'm not sure if Karen's actually going to be here. Sally Anderson, I was thinking was going to be here, and maybe some others from Immigrant Justice. Oh, Panay and Johnny, and whoever else is going to be representing Immigrant Justice, because mobilizing is necessary. A little interlude. I'm sparing you my story because I've told it from the pulpit before, But one of the reasons I am very involved in LGBTQ justice and heading up our LGBTQ welcome team here at the church is because of my crippling fear in adolescence with a growing attraction toward men, which led me to a suicide attempt at age 17. I continued drinking alcoholically, kind of a slow suicide, through college and the first few years of my working life here in Champaign-Urbana. I sobered up, met my husband Tim 41, 42 years ago, and had I not made that change in my life, that was 1981 when we first began hearing about cases of AIDS. My behaviors prior to 1981 put me at high risk. Had my behaviors not changed, I would not be here today. I know that. So, the rest of that story, I think a lot of you have heard, but we want to move on to close our service. And speaking of dollars, if you are situated such that you can afford to provide monetary support for any organization near and dear to your heart, including UUCUC, it's a tremendous gift and another way of promoting justice. As Tim and I worked with our financial planners and we moved toward retirement, we've got plenty enough for us to live on, and we're at the stage where we have made some bequests for after we're gone, including the church and a few others. But we're also working at looking at what can we contribute each year. And I know that there are people that are just living paycheck to paycheck or don't even have enough. They are relying on the food pantries, like the Wesley Food Pantry, where I know the McDermotts volunteer, or soup kitchens. And we're not wanting anyone to feel guilty if they can't give something. But there are those of us that can. And that's another way of promoting justice, is providing some of the funds necessary for these activities to continue. So we come to a close, and we hope that we have inspired you to take some sort of action, even if small. We never want anyone to feel guilty if they are not the type to carry placards or show up for protests or go speak at a rally. There are many small actions people can do, making phone calls, writing letters, getting on the mailing list of the UU Action Network of Illinois, UUANI, or send out notices of such actions directly to your email, and you can check their website. Stuff you can do from home is also promotion of justice. And I want to make sure and mention Jenny Lokshin, who is single-handedly, as far as I know it so far, working with the UU The Vote, that is a UUA-wide initiative. And Jenny will deliver postcards to your home and give you instructions on places. Oh, there's Jenny back there. Stand up, Jenny. Yay, Jenny is here. So I need to keep moving so we can close our service. And I think we've covered pretty much everything we need to cover. Our closing hymn, and if you don't have time to stay for the closing hymn, but we are going to sing Answering the Call of Love. Number 1014 in your hymnal is titled, I'm so sorry, especially people at home. I just hit the microphone. This hymn started out as Standing on the Side of Love, but that's not inclusive of people that can't stand. So the author, Jason Shelton, rewrote the title, Answering the Call of Love. This is another one I think we could sing in the streets, and we have done it before. MR is going to be our song leader for this, and here we go. The words are on the screen, so you don't even need to get the hymnal out unless you like to follow the notes.
The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love abide. faith, we dare to proclaim, we are answering the call of love. A bright new day is dawning, when love will not divide. Reflections of grace in every embrace, fulfilling the vision divine. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one, emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim, we are answering the call of love. We are answering the call of love.
Thank you, MR. And again, apologies for going overtime, but hey. Important messages today. And again, we hope we've inspired you. And remember, hang tags in Fellowship Hall with what people are involved in. And we have hand tag materials so that you can make your own. Our chalice extinguishing are the words of Elizabeth Sully Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the flame of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.